you've lost somebody that was so important to you, you couldn't imagine life without them. How in the world can you ever be expected to continue on without them? Is it even possible to be happy when such a tragedy has ripped them from your life? You feel like a husk of your old self. What's the point anymore? Loss is so incredibly, excruciatingly hard. And it's different for each person and situation. I can never know how you feel right now, or what it's like to go through what you have. To experience the loss that you have is something that's just not within my power to do. What I can tell you is why it hurts so much, and what you can expect moving forward if healing is possible at all. The short answer is yes. Healing is not only possible, it is probable. I'm going to start with an illustration. Right now, your life is a circle, and your grief is this big dark spot in the middle, taking up almost the entirety of that circle. Over time, here's what happens. Your grief does not get smaller. It doesn't go away. What happens is that your life expands. That circle gets bigger. There's more space inside that circle, and as your life grows bigger, that grief becomes smaller in comparison. Eventually, your life will have expanded so much that that grief is just a little dot, just a memory in that vast ocean of your wonderful life. It's still there, and every once in a while it will still hurt, but it will get to the point that you hardly even notice it anymore. Now, even so, is this easy? Not at all. But like I said, this will naturally happen with time. That is one of the most common things that people told me when I was going through a huge loss. While that is true, it doesn't make it suck any less. And any of us going through grief have probably been told the same thing, and oftentimes it's not particularly helpful to hear, but it is true. That grief is there. It needs to be acknowledged. It needs to be felt. It needs to be cried out, screamed into a pillow or in the shower, whether you're doing it through exercise, running, or binge watching your favorite show. You need to let it out. The stupidest thing you could do is refuse to feel it. Your grief demands to be acknowledged. It will not let you go until you accept that it's there, so you know what you're leaving behind when you're able to move on. Now hold on, that is a scary phrase, moving on. So before I go into that, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the grief that some of you may be feeling, the loss that you may have experienced. For me, it was a relationship. The woman I loved more than anything in the world decided that she didn't want me anymore. For others that I know this past year, it was the death of a husband, the death of a parent, the death of a child, the kidnapping of a child, the death of a friend, moving away from family and friends, friendships ending, relationships breaking, divorce, cutting someone off or being cut off. That person that you were so close with, that you loved so much, left. Whether it was a healthy relation that you had or a toxic one, it still hurts. It hurts. It hurts so much. And we can never hope to understand why these things happen. For the last several months, I could not understand why the person that I uprooted my life for wasn't there anymore. It just digs deep and brings out the ugliest, worst parts of you. Everyday things can remind you of the person that you lost. Things that you see, hear, feel, smell, and even taste. Their favorite food or their favorite movie, their sweater, their bedroom, that extra chair in the kitchen. That place that you drive by every day where you once spent so much time with that person. Depending on your situation, you might feel that it's your fault. You might be convinced that it was your fault. And everyone wants to tell you that it wasn't your fault. But how could they know? Now, I'm not saying all of this to make you cry or to make you feel even worse. I'm doing step 1, which is acknowledging the grief. I am acknowledging your pain. Whether it was your fault or not, the way that you turn this experience into something that you can move on from and find happiness again is by learning from it. Step 2 is not hiding from or ignoring what's happened. This is a loss, and it is heartbreaking. But as long as you learn from it and grow as a person through this incredible trial, you will start on the path to overcoming this grief. Think of someone that you love, and think if they were going through what you're going through, you would want to see them come out okay on the other side. You would be rooting for them. You're praying that they will be okay. Recognize that same compassion for yourself. You know that rule, treat others the way you want to be treated? It goes the other way around too. Treat yourself the way that you would want to treat others in your shoes. Please, please be kind to yourself. Yes, this sucks. Step 1 is acknowledging that, and step 2 is the reflection. But what would they want me to do now? You may be thinking of the person you lost or someone else who cares about you. They want to see you okay. They are praying that you don't give up. Now, don't rush it. One of my favorite TV quotes is from a mother comforting her daughter with what she calls a checklist. She says, first, have a little cry. Then, pick myself up, dust myself off, and keep going. Bonus points if you can name that show in the comments. The little girl replies that she only knows how to do the crying part. And her mother says to her, then just do that one for now. Another example that I love is from Winnie the Pooh. When Pooh and Piglet visit their friend Eeyore, and he's sad and rather depressed, they don't try to fix him. They just sit with him. They just come and feel with him. They have empathy for their friend, and they just sit. If someone came into my room while I was crying and just didn't try to say anything, just sat down next to me and just hugged me, I think that would be the greatest medicine for my grief in that moment. Now, a word for the friends and loved ones who want to help someone you care about who is struggling right now with grief and maybe loss. Many times it's hard to know what to say. How do you comfort such a ravaged and tortured soul? How do you know what's the right thing to say? Here is a simple thing to ask them. Offer them 3 options. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want a distraction? Or do you just want to be alone right now? Once you know what they need in that moment, you can better comfort them. Now back to the person grieving. The big thought that I want to share. You cannot put 100% of your happiness on one person. That's like putting 100% of your stocks into one place. And here's what happens. Everyone will lose someone eventually. You can't put 100% of your stocks into one person because what if they're gone? You will lose all of your happiness with them, and often with it, your very will to live. First off, you need a chunk of your happiness staked not on somebody else, but on yourself. You are the only person that you're stuck with for the rest of your life. If you're not happy with yourself, you can never truly be happy without someone else being there for you as a crutch. And like I said before, that's okay if you need someone there during your really low points. It is absolutely a wonderful thing to rely on other people, but you can't do that 100% of the time. You need a balance of self-reliance as well. Because there are going to be times in your life where you are alone, and you need to be okay with that. After you've placed a good chunk of your happiness on yourself, you can invest a good chunk into your romantic partner or your children, your parents, your siblings, your friends, your religious beliefs, your work, your hobbies, anything. But you have to spread those things out. For a long time, my world was focused on the girl that I wanted to marry. Super romantic, right? Except everything I did, every waking moment was dedicated to her. She was the reason I did everything that I did. My happiness was based on her. If she wasn't happy, I wasn't happy. And if I wasn't happy, she was the only one who could make my day better. But then came the time when I lost her. I put all of my happiness stocks into her. And now she was gone, and all of my happiness with it. She was my world. She was everything to me. I poured everything I had into her. She knew all the deepest, most insecure parts of me. And then she left with that. And while I wish I could ask for all of that back, that's not something that can be returned. I made her the only thing that I cared about. And that wasn't healthy. Because once she was gone, what else did I have to live for? My entire world was gone. And I didn't see a point. Even in the most perfect relationship with the most perfect person that lasts for the rest of your life, you cannot put all of your happiness stocks on them, because eventually one of you will die first. And when that happens, you lose all of your happiness stocks and you fall into a literal Great Depression. You have to place your happiness on yourself and in other places too. This doesn't make the loss easier, and it doesn't get rid of your emotions. That is far from what we're trying to do. But it does make recovery easier because you have other things to live for. That loss is a terrible thing, but it's not the end. There's a light at the end of the tunnel for you. Your life continues to grow and expand, experiencing new things, meeting new people. Each new day you grow beyond that grief. You still remember it, but one day it will be something to smile about. Either because you learned something, or it won't be as painful because you remember the good times with that person. And you have so many good times ahead of you. Tomorrow is another day, and that's not just a cliche. Recognize your emotions, grow from the experience, find happiness in other places, and don't try to forget. Don't. Do not try to forget. Because this pain that you feel will just make the good times that much sweeter. You can be happy after losing someone. They made you happy. And one day, you will be happy again, whether with yourself or even just with that person's memory. You've got this. You've made it this far, haven't you? I'm so proud of you. Thank you for watching.